Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, and today officially marks day one under the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration. Now, this is my first video under a newly elected President Biden. This morning's video was the final video under the Trump administration, so this should be very interesting. I mean, nothing has fundamentally changed in terms of our immediate government. The Democrats have taken control of the United States Senate. Nothing has really shifted from what we expected after the Georgia runoff elections. The House is still in Democratic control. Of course, Joe Biden wins the presidency. So everything we expected to occur has gone pretty much very smoothly. The transition of power. Donald Trump did not attend Joe Biden's inauguration today. Mike Pence did, however. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was also in attendance, and so was Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. That's the first time we can officially say that since 2014. So looking at the, I guess not relatively smooth transition today. Obviously, there would have been much more time had the previous administration prepared for an incoming president much quicker than a few days after the Capitol insurrection. I do think that the Biden administration is starting to officially pick up their pace in terms of making sure everything works in their favor, and that starts with executive orders. Many things that Joe Biden had promised to the American people, he knew could not necessarily go through a Republican Congress. The question was whether or not they would have the ability to overturn a veto whenever Joe Biden would want to stop something through the Republican-controlled Senate, or if they could do anything that could bring this executive order to the Supreme Court. A lot of that has always been in discussion for the Republican Party, but now that the Democrats control the Senate, it probably won't be too difficult for the Democrats to pass anything that they want. There won't be any type of Republican objection in the Senate that will hold up too many things. Obviously, major events that are going to require Democrats to receive more than 50 votes would be something that would be much more difficult, but things such as D.C. statehood, Puerto Rico statehood, nominations could go through with 50 votes. But the point of today's video is to actually assess the day one Biden administration plans and the executive orders that have actually been implemented already since Joe Biden has been inaugurated. We're not even 7 hours, 8 hours in to the Biden presidency, and a number of executive orders have been outlined for this evening, later in this evening, or have already been signed. We have already joined the Paris Climate Agreement. That is something that has definitely been on number one for the Democratic Party, besides a number of other issues. I would say that's definitely in the top 10 in terms of their immediate goals, and Biden is doing much more than that. We actually have a more comprehensive list, and we can actually take a look at it because it will tell us a lot about what President Biden is going to do. And it's very weird to say President Biden whenever I say the president. Usually I think that I'm referring to Donald Trump, but I am no longer doing that. It's going to take a little bit of adjustment, so bear with me through this video, through the next few videos, because it's going to get a little bit more normal for me to say that. But for right now, the president has signed an executive order requiring masks on federal property. He's trying to implement this 100-day mask strategy, something that the previous administration did not want to take up. So we can actually see here, there's an entire article about it, quite a few actually. There's so many things that Biden wants to do. We're talking about immigration, we're talking about a mask mandate, we're talking about climate change, a lot of things on discussion, a lot of things happening today. 17 executive orders in total that are supposedly supposed to be signed by this evening. So there's a lot to be discussed. So pretty much this says Biden signed 15 executive orders and 2 other directives Wednesday, and several more to come over the next 10 days. The first 3 were signed on camera from the Oval Office. That was the Paris Climate Accord and 2 others. But I guess 15 executive orders and 2 other directives. So 15 orders, 2 directives, totaling up to 17 things that are meant to be done today. Day one of the Biden administration. So the first thing that also is being noticed is immigration. They talked about an executive order requiring masks and social distancing on federal property. We will get into a more easier list to understand as we go on. We won't need the article in just a few moments. And then another order to provide support to underserved communities. Third order, rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. So a lot of things that President Trump withdrew back in 2017. So that has been a long time coming for the Democrats. On top of that, he ended construction on the border wall on the U.S.-Mexican border. So there's a number of things that President Trump is trying to revert back from Donald Trump, not just the border wall, but also he took an executive action to reverse Trump's ban on travel from predominantly Muslim countries. So the Muslim travel ban is no longer a thing under this new administration. It has been dealt with. Obviously, there are major things that the Democrats and more left-wing members of the entire American electorate would like Biden to do, but this seems to be, promises made, promises kept, just in the version for Joe Biden, because this is something that has definitely been number one, number two, number three for quite some time now for the Democratic Party. Obviously, as COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter movement really moved in as the center front of the 2020 campaign, people also forget that gun control was a major issue, climate change was a major issue, and it seems as if Biden is tackling that one step at a time. And today, 17 orders or initiatives are being done and dealt with in order to ensure that everything that needs to be done is done under the Biden administration. So there's a couple of other things. The 1776 Commission, I was very shocked, to say the least, to even find out that was a thing. I could not bear reading it longer than I actually did, and I don't think that it's something that too many people would be proud about hearing. If you haven't seen it, I would say consider yourself lucky. It was definitely much more, I guess the right word for it is whitewashed and clearly racially biased, especially coming from an official government source. I mean, is anyone truly surprised? I definitely was surprised to see at the just the fact that it was there, that this is even being brought up, because certain things, selective research definitely was done in order to publish the 1776 Commission, but some of the comments definitely were very strange, to say the least. Definitely motivated in, not necessarily in hate, but definitely in prejudice. But that's besides the point. Just a number of things that are being combated now by President Biden, and it seems as if Biden's major thing for right now is to reverse everything that Trump has actually done. So we don't need to go into this article a little bit more. We can actually take a look at the 17 list that's actually been discussed and just talk about some of them as we go through them. So we knew that the border wall construction was done. The Muslim travel ban is done. Rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement, that was done today. It takes 30 days to go into effect. Okay, that makes sense. And then ending the Keystone XL pipeline and revoking oil and gas development and national wildlife monuments. Now, the Keystone XL pipeline still has to work with Canada. I believe that Trudeau actually announced that he's in favor of this, but also there are a number of other issues where Trudeau is much more left-wing than American political figures, including Joe Biden. So it's kind of weird to see, but also more important issues to the voters, not necessarily in the United States, but voters in Canada that are being impacted by the Keystone XL pipeline. They said that they would count non-U.S. citizens in the United States Census again. If you remember, the President Trump administration, I have to get used to saying that, the President Trump administration put forth an effort in the United States Census where they asked a question about whether or not you were a United States citizen. And that was something that many Democrats feared would really disenfranchise undocumented immigrant, I guess, not voters, undocumented citizens from being counted in a census. And as a result, certain areas would receive less federal funding and less representation on the national level. And obviously, nobody wants that. Nobody wants certain regions of the country, regardless if they have undocumented immigrants, to not be counted, because that is just not a representation of the amount of people in a certain area. It throws off the entire population number. So they are now being counted in the United States Census again. But we can go ahead and take a look at the rest of the list. There are some major things that also have been recently more important, definitely with COVID-19, such as rejoining the World Health Organization. President Trump announced that the United States would be leaving that amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a 100-day masking challenge, a nationwide face mask and social distance mandate on federal buildings, lands by federal employees and contractors. So that's something that's going to be big. United States government employs many, many people. That's something that I think would definitely be a major thing for the American people. But we still have yet to see as to whether or not President Biden, or now President Biden, I don't know what I'm saying, as if it's not happened yet, President Biden will pretty much have a national mask mandate. But that's probably would be shot back down to the states, but we will see if he does that through executive order. He initially had planned to. Extend eviction and foreclosure moratoriums. Looking at a lot of these things, it's pretty much just giving people as much time as they can in order to recover under this economy that definitely has been crumbled by COVID-19 for sure. Continue the pause in student loan payments until September 30th. Defend Dreamers program for undocumented young Americans. Change Trump's arrest priorities for immigration and custom enforcements. That's ICE. Key protections for groups of Liberians in the country. Restructure federal government coordination to the COVID-19 pandemic. So that has to do with handling the virus. Actions to advance racial equity through the federal government. Revoke Trump's harmful 1776 Commission. Like I had mentioned previously, you can actually go ahead and find that on the internet if you'd like, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. for a multitude of reasons, but we don't need to get too invested into that. Strengthen workplace discrimination protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity. That makes sense. Definitely a major playing point by the Democrats for this election, and also in 2016 as well. Freezing last-minute Trump administration regulatory actions and formulate executive branch ethics doctrine. So President Biden wants every executive branch appointee to sign an ethics pledge, and the pledge commits federal employees to uphold the independence of the Department of Justice. So a lot of things that Biden is pretty much doing. He's making sure that a lot of the promises that he made initially are being done on day one. Paris Climate Agreement, joining the World Health Organization, mask mandate on federal policies. A lot of things are going into place under President Biden, and it's only day one. So it looks as if this is going to be the I guess you could say start of an executive order president. President Obama definitely had to use executive orders for 6 years of his term, his 2 terms at that, because of the Republican opposition. I mean, it makes sense. The incumbent president is always given the executive order power for that reason, because they serve as a check on Congress, and they will be able to have executive orders, and then it will be ruled whether or not those are constitutional or not later on. But pretty much the executive order power is reserved to the president, and Joe Biden is executing that on day one. Executing it on day one. Not to say presidents haven't. Almost every president has executed executive orders on day one. Day one promises are a major thing about campaigns, and Joe Biden did say on day one he will rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, and they would rejoin the World Health Organization, and that's being done. So this is the start of the promise list that is definitely going to be counted. We have to look at PolitiFact. They actually fact check almost everything. They're going to start monitoring 100 campaign promises. It's not fully updated. They have an entire list of the amount of campaign promises. We don't know what's going to be done. They did this for Donald Trump. I showed you guys this morning. If you haven't seen my video, you can go ahead and check that out in the top right corner of the screen. Sorry about that, where it pretty much just covers President Trump's legacy. PolitiFact is able to dive into the promises. It found out that President Trump only kept around one half of his promises. 1/4 of that entire promise area was done by a small amount, meaning that there was compromise. There were things that were given up in exchange for others, for promises to be made. Around 1/4 of all of the promises were fully kept to the 100% extent. So we still have to see what's going to happen under Biden. COVID-19, definitely a number of things. There's 100 promises here. You can find this on the PolitiFact website, but we will see what happens under the Biden administration. But so far, what we've seen is that Joe Biden is not afraid to use the executive order. He's, very well versed in it. He knows that the executive order is going to be the only way for him to get certain things done immediately. Even though the Senate is now controlled by the Democratic Party, the Democrats have won control of the Senate, of course, with the presidency. They now win the Senate. They also have control of the House. So there is a Democratic trifecta, the first one since the election of 2008. So that was the last time the Democrats had a trifecta in the United States government. It definitely was hard fought by both sides. It's much closer than it was in 2008. That's largely due to the fact that in 2008, Democrats were reliant on traditionally Republican states or traditionally conservative states, not necessarily Republican states at the time, traditionally conservative states for Senate seats and House seats. Now the Democrats rely on a very slim majority in the House and even slimmer majority in the Senate, but they still have control. So if everyone votes party line, the Democrats will be able to get certain things done. And Biden seems to be already starting that off by focusing on these 15 executive orders and these 2 initiatives that are pretty much going to change a lot of what President Trump had done. Day one starts out with not expanding necessarily on things that hadn't been done before, but rather overturning things that were done by the previous administration, overturning the decisions made back in 2017, 2018, 2019, and as recently as 2020, when that's talking about the World Health Organization or whether we're talking about the Paris Climate Agreement. A number of things that President Trump did that the Biden administration did not agree with, does not agree with currently. They are now using executive orders in order to overturn that. And that's something that I think that the Democratic Party was really hoping would happen. And Joe Biden is doing that immediately. So I probably will not be discussing the day, type of videos. It's just day one, and I think it's important to note what's done on day one, because usually this is when all of the major media headlines drop, when the incoming administration does the most, the boldest type of moves. As the article from USA Today had told us, that they expect a multitude of executive orders to reach the desk by in the next 10 days. And that's something that I will definitely be on the lookout to talk about for immediate analysis. But so far, the Democrats definitely are using this White House now as a means to overturn many decisions made by President Trump in the past. Now President Biden can overturn with his administration, with practically his Senate and his House of Representatives. So the Democrats are in control. They are also taking advantage of the executive order ability, and it looks as if on day one, Biden is taking drastic steps to overturn what President Trump has done over the past 4 years. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my post-2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.